Ohio. Przemysl, the boundary city, is the county in the southeast of Poland located on the River San near Ukraine, in 12 km from border. The population makes about 67,000 inhabitants. Przemysl is the important customs station on the railway line Lviv-Krakow. Till 1998 the city was the administrative center of the Przemysl voivodeship. After his disbandment is a part of the Subcarpathian voivodeship of Poland. According to excavation of the Polish archaeologists A. Kapersky and M. Perchevsky, who found the Hungarian cemetery in Przemysl in the first half of the 10th century near Przemysl, there was an enclave occupied by one of groups the Magyar. In the middle of the 10th century the Przemysl Hungarians, who weren't wishing to be a part of the early state education of East Slavs with the center in Kiev, decided to join the bulk of the Hungarians who were actively mastering Polynavi's average probably. The first mentions of Przemysl are dated 981 year. In the chronicle it is told how Vladimir Sviatowicz went to Poles and occupied the cities them. After the Przemysl was included in the structure of the old Russian state, having become the capital of Red Russia. As a result of feudal crushing of Russia, Przemysl sometime was the center of the Przemysl earth destiny of the Galицko-Volhynsky Principality. After the Mongolian invasion it is won by Poland and I was a part of the Russian voivodeship where was the center of a Starostvo. 1434-1772. On the place of Przemysl Detnets of old Russian time the King Casimir III constructed the Gothic lock. Przemysl was mentioned in Annalistic, the list of the Russian cities distant and near. Jagiello gave to Catholics the Orthodox cathedral in Przemysl constructed at the Russian Prince Volodar Rostislavovich, having laid the foundation for an O-Catholic and a Polonization of this city. Took away from the Orthodox Metropolitan Galitsky in favor of the Catholic Archbishop all his land possession. It should be noted that in Moscow throughout centuries didn't forget about the Russian accessory of Przemysl. For example, he was in the list of the cities which return was demanded by Ivan IV, calling by their violently sawn off ancestral lands Rurik dynasty from Vladimir Krestitel and his son Yaroslav. After the partition of Poland passed to Austria-Hungary as a part of the Kingdom of Galicia and Lodomeria. Before World War I, Przemysl turned into the strengthened military fortress with an external ring in 45 km. In 1914 in fortress 140,000 Austrian soldiers were placed. Military hysteria led to disorder when 44 persons accused of a Russofilstvo were killed on September 15, 1914. To 8 on September 21. 1914 troops of the Russian Southwest Front during Galiciski fight occupied almost all East Galicia and almost all Bukovina above Chernivtsi and besieged the Austrian fortress Przemysl. 9 on March 22. 1915 after a long siege fortress was taken by the Russian army. Is the Polish author by Linia Holodecki remembered. The sad message came 9 on March 22. 1915 to Lviv that fortress Przemysl gave up to the Russian troops, forced to it by a lack of food. In Lviv depression set in. Many optimists didn't want even to trust this sad news, and the flags which only are hanged out in the evening by order of the Russian authorities on houses disseminated any doubts. Under the influence of a depression, many inhabitants went sad, others with the curses and damnations on lips directed against an Intendanstvo of Austria-Hungary, others with open manifestations of antipathy to Russians. There was much and such which reacted to news with sobbings, apoplectic seizure happened, attacks of hysteria and rage, to someone even. On the other hand, Russophiles and concealed the joy and hurried in large quantities with congratulations to the residence of the Governor-General, who ordered to arrange officially on the city of a procession with portraits of the Tsar and Grand Duke, Supreme Commander, in an environment of flags, military units, soldiers, police officers and a part of the civilian population, which vivata and exclamations gave expression to the feelings. Next day, on Tuesday 10 on March 23. The Russian population of the city of Lviv solemnly celebrated Przemysl's capture by the Russian army. The city, which passed under control of Russia, was visited by the Emperor Nicholas II. However, after Golitsky breakthrough of Mackensen, it was again won by Austro-German troops. In 1918-1939, Przemysl was in structure of Poland. On September 1, 1939, the German troops attacked Poland. The German-Polish War of 1939 began. On September 17, 1939, the Red Army of the Soviet Union entered on the territory of East Poland, the Western Ukraine, and the Treaty of Friendship and Border between the USSR and Germany was signed on September 28, 1939. On October 27, 1939, the Soviet power is established. Since November 14, 1939, is a part of the Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic, USSR. On December 4, 1939, I became the center of Przemysl district of the Drogobychsy region. The decree of Presidium of the Supreme Council of the USSR of December 4, 1939. In 1939-1941, after accession of the Western Ukraine to the USSR, generally as a part of USSR, a small part of the city as a part of the German Governorate-General. On June 22, 1941, the German troops attacked the USSR. The Great Patriotic War began. The Soviet troops which were in the city were lifted on fighting alarm and brought to places of concentration according to the plan of cover of frontier. The commander of the 17th Field Army, General Shulchegel, who developed the divisions at the front from Tomashuva to Przemysl, struck the main blow through Roverescu to Lviv and further in the general direction to Ternopil. Separate blows he held down forces of the USSR defending Przemysl and boundaries to the south of the city. The city was occupied by the German troops in the afternoon on June 22, but the next morning was freed by parts of the Red Army and border troops of People's Commissariat for Internal Affairs of the USSR. The 99th Rifle Division of the General N. 1. Demenchev, working together with frontier guards and battalions of the Przemysl Ukreprayan, I beat out parts of the German 101st Infantry Division of Boundary Przemysl 3 times. This division was one of caused to the enemy serious damage in the first days of war. The city kept till June 27, when it was finally occupied. It is released on July 27, 1944 by troops of the 1st Ukrainian Front during Lviv and Sandomier's operation. To the troops which were involved in fights for Przemysl and Yaroslav's release, by the order VVVV of July 28, 1944, it is thanked officially, and in Moscow the salute by 20 artillery volleys from 224 tools is given. In 1945 the USSR in structure of Poland is entirely returned. In everyday life of the city before World War II, the large role was played by Ukrainians and Jews. Most of Jews of the city died during the Holocaust, and Ukrainians and Lemk moved in 1947 during the Operation Vistula. Chronology. The 8th century, in this territory settled to the Ludzena and their prince Przemysl. Both names mean the same trait of character. The cunning dexterity. Founds the city and on its own behalf names Przemysl. The 9th century, Przemysl passes to the state Great Moravia. Arrival of a mission of the Latin bishop. 899 Przemysl Hungarian's master. The 940th, the beginning of nominal dependence on Kievan Rus. 981-985 Vladimir Veliki combats to the country and wins him. 1018 Boleslas I Rabri attaches Przemysl to Poland. 1031 Przemysl is newly attached to Kievan Rus. The beginning of the Jewish settlement in Przemysl. The first documented settlement of Jews on the Polish lands. 1069 After occupation of the city of Bolesław Courageous, it becomes the residence of the Polish monarch for several years. 1086, 1344 The city under the power of the Galицko-Volhynsky Principality and during the short period was his capital. 1344 The King Casimir III Veliki attached Przemysl from so-called Chervony Russia to Poland after the death of the last Russian governor, Yuri Boleslav, who bequeathed to transfer the principality to the Polish state. Engraving of 1617 with an inscription. Przemysl, the well-known city of Russia. 1389 The city acquires the Magdeburg right. A stone lock is constructed. The city was surrounded by a high wall with towers, new churches, monasteries, a town hall are constructed. 1498 Attack of the Vlachsky governor Stefan Great, which won the city and sent him to production to soldiers. After that the city was reduced to ashes, without sparing even temples. 1614 The city destroyed Kantemir Mirza. 1648 The city was besieged by the Cossack Colonel Kopostinsky, but was beaten off by Karl Korniak from Susnitsa. 1656 The city was besieged by the Swedish General Robert Douglas, who receded before the coming troops of the Hetman Stefan Chernetsky. This event, a turning point in the Swedish flood, from this event is considered retreat of the Swedish troops from the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth. 1657 The city beats off invasion of the Transylvanian troops of Yuri Rakotsi. 1670 New fortification strengthenings were constructed by Andrei Maximilian Fredro from the coat of arms of Boncha. 1620 1679 1672, Przemysl's vicinities were devastated by Tatars whom under Kormanitsami Przemysky citizens under the leadership of the patron of reformers of the late Kristina Szykovskoga broke. 1692, foundation of the Przemysky Greco-Catholic Diocese. 1772, the city as a result of the first partition of Poland gets to possession of Austria, process of decline of the city and stagnation which lasts until the autonomy of Galicia and construction of Fortress Przemysl comes. 1914-1918, heavy fights to the country in connection with his transformation into fortress. Przemysky Fortress. 1918-1919, the Polish-Ukrainian battles for the city. Participation of Przemysky Eaglets, the Polish school students. 1918-1939, the center of the county in Lviv Voivodeship. 1931, according to a census, the city is inhabited by persons from them. 63.3%. The Roman Catholics. 29.5%. Jews 43.91, 7%. Greek Catholic and 85, 0.2%. Representatives of other religions. Przemysl is one of the largest cities between Krakow and Lviv. 1939-1941 The city is divided down the river Sand, the area of Zasani under the German occupation, and the Old City under Soviet. 1939-16 On September 19 Germans in Zasani shot about 600 Jews. 1940 The Ukrainian nationalists from approval of Hitlerite dismantled the monument of Przemysl Eaglets. It is restored later, but not at Konstanty Square where was during the period between world wars, and only over Sang. 1941-1944 Almost all Jewish population is killed. 1944 The Red Army enters the city together with the 38th and 39th Infantry Regiments of Army Krajowa from a Podokrug Arzazo. There were plans of placement of the center of the voivodeship here, but finally the concept won to make the city of Arzazo, disposed closer to the center of the country, though considerably smaller on the area. 1944-1947 In village fences of the city fights with the guerrilla movement UPA continue, reaches murders of the Polish citizens. 1945-1975 The center of the county in the Arzazo voivodeship. On October 2, 1963, the communistic authorities seeking for weakening of influence of church on youth made the decision on closing of Salesiansky Church School, dismissal of priests and teachers. It caused a general revolt. There were collisions of youth with militia and ZOMO. About 70 people over whom they conducted trials were detained. 1975-1998 The capital of the Przemysl voivodeship. 1991 The visit of John Paul II, the Pope who gave to the believing Greek Catholic to cathedral the building of the former Church of Jesuits. Since January 1, 1999 the Powiatowy city in the Subcarpathian voivodeship with the capital in the city of Arzazo. State accessory. Military associations, connections, parts. During the period from September 1939 to June 22, 1941 in the city management of the 8th Rifle Corps was located. Also far. Write comments. Read comments. Interesting people will tell interesting stories. All of good mood and good luck.